Warum ich das beknackte Hemd trage? Na, weil es jetzt um Auffälligkeit und Auffälliges geht. Wie mache ich Video-Ads und Videos so auffällig, dass es richtig knallt, sie die Menschen erreichen und die auch was machen? Und darüber spreche ich mit Jonathan von Teads. Jonathan, you are the expert for flashy, striking videos and video ads. What is a, let's say, success recipe for powerful videos?
Sure. Well, thank you for calling me an expert. That's quite good. So I think the main thing is the team, right? And it's the people that work in that team, having a belief that we're trying to change and make video advertising better and for good. So once those things are in place, you have the team, you believe in what you're doing, you can then gain the trust of the client, right? And if you have the trust of the client and the client allows you to adapt and recreate and remix the assets that they've spent a lot of money on, delivering across TV or whatever it might be, then you start to put in place the stepping stones or the building blocks to be trusted, to be valued, and to really work in combination with the client, really, because essentially that's what needs to happen.
Ab diesem Zeitpunkt übernimmt Jonathans Team, das Video zu optimieren. Jonathan, what are the biggest mistakes brands make in terms of video production or ideas and distribution?
Okay. I don't know if I'd call them mistakes as such. I mean, I'd rather talk about, what brands typically do. For some, it may be a mistake. For others, it may not be a mistake. But let's kind of look at or talk about the ecosystem in which we're in and how things play out. Okay, so predominantly in a digital world, the video creative that we get is a repurposed TV creative. Okay, so it's been cut from a bit of TV content. So that ostensibly or isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it doesn't really take account of the user, where the user will be viewing that content, and how they will be watching and viewing that content. Okay, so the key things. So a very simple thing is sound. Okay, if you think about sound and the fact that, auto sound is off by default on Google, I think 80% of Facebook videos are sound off. So if you're creating or delivering a bit of content to me or my team, and it has a lot of dialogue, okay, and you can only understand the narrative through the dialogue, then we have a problem, okay, because people are not going to understand what's going on. So that's one of the main issues that we face, or one of the main things that we try to help and evaluate and refashion with our clients is sound off, essentially, right? The second piece related to that is that you have a short amount of time with the user. Okay, so less so in premium content where our creative displays between page paragraphs, so people are reading, they tend to scroll a lot slowly, whereas a social scroll is a lot quicker. But that being said, you only have a small amount of time to really capture attention, right? So you have a small amount of time to capture attention and for the user to understand and see what it is they're being shown. Okay, so if your brand isn't overt in the first couple of seconds, you've maybe missed an opportunity. This isn't the case for all brands, but you may have missed an opportunity. So I think what we do as part of the studio, we would evaluate that creative. We would run tests. We would see if the brand appears soon or at second 10 or whatever it is, and then we'd look at ways to optimize that in conjunction with the brand, right? So I think the main things that we're dealing with is this all leads to the premise that what we receive isn't built for the platform that it's going to be running on. Okay, so that's the main, again, maybe not a mistake, but that's the main challenge, is trying to get content purely for that device.
And what role does artificial intelligence play in all that? So I think you use artificial intelligence, is that right?
Correct. So I would say we use that less so on the creative side, but more on the decisioning side, so the optimization of that creative. So using machine learning to understand, for instance, if a user is likely to scroll, right? So building data and patterns on the user. Are they likely to scroll? Are they likely to complete? So it's the kind of business decisioning and optimization that happens with machine learning. So I kind of I don't like talking about it too much because it's a bit of a buzzword, I think. On the creative side, it can be used, and we've evaluated various scenarios. It can be used, or we can use machines to edit content in real time and recompile content. So let me kind of try and unpack that a little bit for you. So if you take a bit of 3-minute content, for instance, and you index that content on a frame by frame basis, okay, and you give those indexes, you put them into groups, in real time you could potentially take a 3-minute video, cut it down to 10 so it's fit for mobile, or 15 seconds, just by using the machine, right? So the machine will auto compile the cuts for you based on what we know about you, right? So if you're interested in sport, for instance, and the creative contains lots of sequences that are sports related, we cut everything else out and recompile so you just see the sports bit because that's what you're interested in. So I think, you know, there are things that can and are being done just generally, but at Teads we're kind of using it more on the optimization of the delivery rather than the creative itself.
We are talking about creativity, we are talking about media, and we are talking about technology. What is more important?
I don't think one is.
We are in Cannes. You want to answer creativity.
I should answer creativity. Well, listen. You know, we know that it powers 2/3 of all effectiveness is run by the creative, right? So from a media perspective, you could have the best media plan in the world, but if your creative isn't good, then it's not going to work, right? So the creative is important, but none of them work in isolation, so they all need each other. So of course we'd promote the value of creative, but as part of that, it's the whole ecosystem that needs to work together, okay? So yeah.
By the way, what do you think about my shirt? Would it work well in a video ad?
Well, I think if we're talking about effectiveness of creative, I think your shirt would work well, right? Because you get noticed, I think. Yeah, and people will remember you.
Jonathan,
yeah.
Thank you very much.
That's okay.